Welcome to Trauma, Psychedelics, and Buddhism with Karen Sprinkle, certified psychedelic guide, trauma therapist, and author of The Thriving Self. Drawing from over 30 years of experience in trauma therapy, embodied Buddhist practice, and immersive Eastern living, Karen explores the many paths to healing through conversation with Dharma teachers, scientists, and mental health professionals. Listen in and discover new ways of thinking about what it means to truly heal and to thrive.
Welcome, everyone, to Trauma, Psychedelics, and Buddhism. Today, I am very happy and feel excited to have Cindy Swain with us. And full disclosure, this is our second attempt at an interview. We had a wonderful interview a month ago, but the internet connection wasn't so great, so we're trying again. And Cindy and I just met recently. And let's see, we met about 3 months ago or so.
I think so, roughly, yeah.
Roughly about 3 months ago in East Lansing, Michigan, where I'm from. And I am going to pass the mic to Cindy to introduce herself to all of you.
Okay, where to start? So I was thinking about that today. So this year marks my 40th year as being a physical therapist. So I'm mostly retired now, 85% retired. I still do a little bit of that, but so I'm a retired physical therapist. I am the CEO and president of a nonprofit that I started about 5 years ago called In Her Name Foundation. And one of the reasons that Karen and I met is because I too am a host of a podcast. So besides that, I am a beekeeper. I'm an avid sports enthusiast, and what else? Mother of 3, married, live in Michigan where it is still frozen most of the time. The sun did come out today, which was a treat for January. Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of things over the years. Primarily, my rehabilitation practice was in trauma, head trauma, various neurological trauma, and then specializing in more of the esoteric work later on in cranial sacral and myofascial work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I think a lot of my specializing in the esoteric work kind of went along hand in hand with the work that I did personally in my own life to be healthier and be there for my family and kids. So I've coached tennis in the past. I've done some public address sports announcing, and I'm just happy doing retirement things like running the foundation, podcasting. I am in the process of writing a book, writing my story. Karen has been kind of a inspiration of getting that going, and so I don't know what else to say. I'm very happy to be, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm excited to share my story, and hopefully it can be insightful to other people that are going through the rehab process and suffering from trauma.
Beautiful, Cindy. And there's already 2 things that I think the viewers would really want to hear more about. And one is how you describe the more esoteric side of physical therapy. And then 2, more about the In Her Name Foundation and your own trauma story. So whatever
Sure.
you feel that you would love to dive into first.
Well, let's start with the kind of the broader scope of the profession of physical therapy. You know, when I started doing some of the esoteric work, which is probably about 8 years ago, there wasn't even a code for it, the CPT language, where you actually bill or code for that in physical therapy proper. And I'm happy to say now that there is a code for cranial sacral work. I mean, early on, it's learning about how to heal the body and the belief that the body wants to heal itself if you just set it up and put it in the right place, which is really metaphorical for, mental health as well. Is your
Absolutely.
your mental side wants to heal. I often told clients it's like you still have this wound, this scab or this sore that the body just naturally wants to heal, and if you can put the right things on it to soothe it, it will heal in a real positive way. And that's what I found out about craniosacral work, through my own issues with back and hip pain. I kind of went that direction, and once I went that direction, there's no going back, really. I mean, because that's just kind
Wow.
of been a lot of what I did over the years. So, going into even more in my own therapy healing process, it just goes hand in hand with craniosacral, more the esoteric. And I think you have to be willing to be open to that kind of healing and let your body take it in.
Mhm.
Sometimes as I'm sure you know, Karen, when you have someone that's not quite convinced that what you're
Yes.
doing is going to be helpful, it's a lot harder to help them down their journey. Where if people believe in what you're saying, I always said that,
Mhm.
70% of physical therapy is getting people to buy what you're selling. The other
Yeah,
30%
sure.
is skill. And so if you can marry those two, you'll have a really successful outcome.
That's true as a somatic experiencing practitioner too. I remember walking away from the program with what that sentence that you said is, "Oh, wait, our bodies are always looking to heal themselves."
They
Like
do.
that
They are.
that
Yeah.
is actually science, right? And
It is.
and
Yes.
and having patients accept that is really it's a
Mhm.
hard pill to swallow for someone to
Mhm.
accept that our
Right.
bodies actually naturally want to heal themselves.
Mhm.
So is that how you describe esoteric? Is that how
I
would
do.
you
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
okay.
I do. It's the
Mhm.
body always wants to come to some sort of equilibrium.
Mhm.
And, from I've seen just horrific, physical trauma from car accidents, skiing accidents, diving accidents, all kinds of things. And the
Ooh,
body will heal over those wounds. You just have to give it the right input so it heals in more of a healthy manner. I know a lot of early on when I would do craniosacral work with fairly new head injured clients, their outcomes I thought were greater when you could start it earlier than maybe seeing someone, you know, on down the road where they've had a lot of scar tissue develop. And
yeah,
it goes hand in hand with mental health is that if you don't if you wait and keep letting it scar over and scar over, it takes a lot longer to get down deep into that place that's healing.
absolutely. Especially if we believe our scars are actually what are helping us survive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
A
yeah.
and I would say that that's really true for me, on the emotional side is I waited a long time in life before I actually reached out on a therapeutic way for my own mental health, and the scars were pretty thick, pretty calloused over, I'll have to say at the start. I thought,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
couple 3 sessions, I'm gonna be fine,
Oh,
"Oh, oh, okay, 6 months. Yeah, I'll give it 6 months, then I'm done, right?" And then I'm thinking, "Hmm, maybe a year, right?" Well, it's been almost 25 now. And I'm s and I'm still a work in progress.
Oh, Cindy, I would love for you to share more because as a therapist and as a mental health trauma specialist in the world, I can't tell you, and you probably got this as a physical therapist too, how many people would call and on intake, they'll say, "Well, I know you can't tell me exactly, but roughly how long do you
Oh,
think I'll
yeah.
be in
Yeah.
therapy?" And I
Yeah.
always say the same thing, which is the longer I do this, the longer I've learned not to predict. Like, it's
Right.
literally
Right.
impossible to
It
predict.
is.
Like, the
It
people
is.
that say they're gonna come in for 5 sessions and need 5 years, and those that have done, hardly any work sometimes heal in 5 sessions. You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never
Yeah.
know, and that's the way it is too when you do the esoteric work in physical therapy. Because people will say, "Well, how many visits?" Insurance companies wanna know,
Yeah.
"Well, how many visits are you gonna do?" And so I couldn't predict that anymore, so I actually left the insurance world, and all the esoteric
Mm.
craniosacral work, I've just done fee for service, and people have
Yeah.
actually been happy with that because
Mhm.
their progress has been so much greater, and,
Absolutely.
you know, in a more efficient manner, and then, they end up being kind of more your maintenance kind of long-term clients that will continue to see you over the years where your physical body also needs attention. You can't
Yeah.
just do it for a while and then forget about it, because what happens that I've learned with trauma is your body responds in the same way. And so you'll start, it might be your neck, it might be your gut, it might be your back, it might be a hip, but it'll start to tighten and protect around those structures every time you have an emotional trauma. So it all goes together.
For
And,
sure.
to help, tune people into what it feels like when that happens and be able to teach them to, what do they need to do? Because one of the other things I forgot to mention that in the introduction, I'm also a certified yoga instructor. So I've done a
All
lot of
right.
therapeutic yoga over the years in addition to, the myofascial craniosacral work, and that really works well for long-term outcomes. It really does.
Amazing, Cindy. I'm just curious before we get into In Her Name Foundation, do you feel that there was a personal reason why you became a physical therapist? Or was it just like a true
Um,
professional calling?
that is a good question. I had absolutely no idea what physical therapy was about when I got accepted into school, basically. I thought I played tennis, collegiate level. I thought, I'll do some sports medicine, work in a clinic, orthopedics. And I get to my first internship and I absolutely hated it. I can't
Oh,
do this work. It just was too short term and too run by the insurance industry. And then my next
mhm.
rotation was more trauma, more head injury, spinal cord, neurologic, and it just felt like it pulled all the things that I had learned in school together in a package where I really felt called to help people, and I felt like I really could help people improve their outcomes, and that's where I really learned about physical therapy, and it's been a great fit, really, especially as it's kind of evolved for me over the years, in different ways.
Beautiful. And obviously you're someone with that growth mindset because you kept learning and adding to your
Mhm.
skill set too.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Cindy, do you feel like you can share a little bit about starting In Her Name
Mhm.
Foundation and how
Sure.
that came to be?
Um, yeah, do you want me to start back way back when I was a freshman heading for the high school tennis team?
If you feel like you're ready to share that.
Sure, I am.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so how this all came about is back in the summer of 1976. I was getting ready to start my freshman year in high school, and my older sister Carla and I had played tennis a lot together that summer, and so I kind of after she went missing on June 30th, 1976, and was missing for 82 days. And I was a really scared, unsure. I mean, 14, you're scared and unsure of yourself anyway. But layer that on top of a sister that's missing. We had no idea what happened to her. She took off on her bike from our house, and we grew up in a really fairly small community, Hayes, Kansas. You draw pick a dot, draw a line between Kansas City and Denver, put a dot in the middle, that's where it is, and, Hayes is kinda in
Mm,
the middle of nowhere, so, back then, worry about locking your house, you didn't know where the house key was even, or if you even had one, or the keys are always in the car, so you don't have to worry about that, and she went missing. She was abducted and assaulted about a half a mile from our house, brutally assaulted, and then this individual disposed of her body about 30 miles to the south and west of Hayes, and they finally found her 82 days later. And it was a time where, the anxiety was gut-wrenching, paralyzing, nauseating, not knowing. That overlaid with my folks' marriage was, to say it was rocky is an understatement. So there was a lot of turmoil going on at home. And Carla was kind of my pseudo parent, and one that I loved everything about her. Just I was with is I just soaked her up anytime she was home from school. I just soaked her up. So, yeah, on that 82nd day, September 22nd of 1976, I decide that, all right, early in the fall when she was missing, I thought, well, we played tennis together, so I'll go up for the tennis team, right? Maybe that in some way could will her home or make me feel closer to her while she was missing. And the first day of practice was a challenge letter. I completely failed miserably. I ended up 18 of 24 kids. I didn't even make the junior varsity or the B team. So, but I had a coach that really understood that I had potential and helped me believe in myself. So, fast forward a little further into that season, the day we found out about her was September 22nd, and I had practice that day, and I
Mm.
debated, "Do I go? Do I take my racket? What am I gonna tell my
Oh,
coach?" As a 14-year-old, you're just thinking, "Oh my god, what a burden to put on a kid," because I have kids
yeah.
of my own, I can't imagine having put them through that. But I was by myself, I got on my bike, picked up my racket, I went to practice, and, you know, I didn't even have to say anything because my coach came over, she knew, she put her arms around me and literally picked me up and put me on my feet and told me that, with faith in time, faith in myself, belief in myself, I would get through it. And she knew I had potential, so she mentored me from 18 of 24 to my senior year, winning the state singles championship and going on to earning a Division I scholarship. But I always, over the years, remembered that day in particular and
Yeah.
never forgot it. And I just felt like in some way I want to honor Carla when I get to that point in my life where I can feel free to do that. And it's taken a lot of work, a lot of therapy, and learning how to talk about her, talk about the
Mhm.
person that she was, to say her name, because I became mute at that age. I was so afraid to say anything to anybody about her because
Wow.
how at 14 do you tell someone, "Oh, by the way, my sister got murdered by a serial killer." Because that individual took 5 lives over a 2-year period. I mean, that's not a conversation a 14-year-old is gonna wanna have with anyone, right? So,
Yeah.
I just never talked about her, and when the subject came up, it would just my folks would just fall to pieces, and, over the years, it had always been around the sadness and the trauma and what happened to her instead of she was this great human and this
Yeah.
person that I adored that literally I mean, even from the smell of her hair and the shampoo she used, I just
Mm.
loved her so much. And when she went missing, that was huge. That was really big, and I don't think anybody else in my family really understood that. They got caught up in all of the trial and the legal stuff and what had happened, and I kinda just "There's Cindy, oh, she's doing okay in school, and she's on the tennis team, she's doing well, she's probably fine." But I
Yeah, and you were
wasn't.
neglected. You were absolutely neglected, it sounds like.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And
Not only by your family, but it sounds like the community as well, except for the tennis coach.
so the tennis coach, my tennis coach, Donna
Mhm.
Cooper, and I think, we just talked about how we met earlier, in the podcast interview that I did with you. Unfortunately, we
Yeah.
lost Donna in November, a coach that, I have kept in touch with and dearly miss, really,
Oh.
really miss her. So, yeah, a special lady and yeah.
Would you be able to talk about Carla with Donna?
Yeah,
Oh,
we would
yeah,
some. And I think
yeah.
it was more, I did a lot of talking to Donna after we reconnected. "What do you remember about her? What kind of student was she? How was she on the tennis team?" And so
Mhm.
that was really fun to have someone from the outside actually talk about her really candidly and say, "Gosh, she was this great student. This is what she liked to study. She was a good tennis player, but she didn't have as much talent as you." And the thing is, the other thing that I learned growing up, not talking about her, I just felt like I wasn't important. I wasn't valued. and my thoughts weren't important, and I felt like everybody else loved Carla. She was prettier, she was smarter, she was better at this, and that I would never live up to that expectation, and so a lot of that I had to work through in therapy that, you know what? Everybody has value, everybody's important, and that is the theme that I project through the foundation and supporting young women, in
Mhm.
sports, and, you know, in all the podcasting I've done and the writing that I've done, and the speaking that I've done and the coaching it's done is everybody has value and everybody's important, and I just so believe that youth and young people, especially young women, need to hear that more now than ever.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so it's interesting to hear your journey with Carla and how you went from not being able to talk about her at all and then finding the ability to even talk about her. And
Mhm,
like you said, if it sounds like if anything was brought up about Carla, it was about how Carla died and
mhm,
not about how Carla lived,
yeah,
except years later when you could talk
years
to Donna
later.
about it.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
and that's something so important for the viewers or the listeners right now. If they do have a loved one that's been murdered or violently taken from them, it's so vitally important to have someone that you can talk to about the life of your loved one, not
Oh, for
just
sure.
their death, right?
Oh,
And
for
and
sure, yeah.
and you mentioned her shampoo. What shampoo did she use?
Breck, you remember that?
Oh, yes.
The orange the orange bottle? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes! Oh
Mhm,
my
mhm.
goodness. Now you still find that shampoo?
I don't know, I should look and see. I would guess I don't know, I don't even know, but, it's funny you say that because there's I have a dog that needs a bath on a regular basis, and there's this I was in the pet store a couple years back, and I found this bottle of shampoo, and it was just orange, and I'm picking up smelling it, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that smells like my sister's shampoo," and I bought it. That's the only thing I bathe him in it, and I know that sounds really weird, but it smells like Breck shampoo. Uh, but yeah, and just her clothes that she left behind, and how her desk was, where her chair was, and just things that just kinda got left, and it really was kind of an odd, uh yeah, it was just weird. It was just a difficult time for my parents. They did what they could with what they had, and, yeah, I mean, I don't fault them. I mean, one never knows how they're gonna react when they lose a child that
Right.
way, or a child in any way. It's devastating, absolutely devastating, and, sure, things could have been different, but, to fault them would not progress me in therapy is,
Sure.
understanding that, they had their limitations, this is what they came with, these are the why you think the way you do and work around that,
Mm,
but I still I walk lightly around that just because, you
sure,
know,
yeah.
give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, they were traumatized.
Oh,
When we are
absolutely.
fully in a trauma response, we cannot be there for other people,
No. And they
even if
just
we
they were
intend to.
right, they weren't. They really struggled with being
Course.
available, and I think it affected me especially, when I went into college and I played tennis at that Division I level, and we were playing, a lot of really large schools, the Big Ten, which is now the Big 12, so it was Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Iowa State, Minnesota, Missouri, all those really big schools,
Mhm.
and so your intensity level has to be really ratcheted up, and it just got to the point I couldn't manage all of the personal anxiety that I was feeling and the competitive anxiety at the same time, and it just kinda ate me up, and I had to step away. I did,
Oh, I would
unfortunately. So
imagine.
I never really realized how good I was until later. It's like, "Wow, I was pretty good," but that's okay. It was a good choice for me to step away and just be known for Cindy the person instead of
Yes.
Cindy the tennis player. I needed that. I needed that.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm just curious now, when you think of yourself in relationship to your sister and you as a tennis player, I think I asked you this our last interview too. Do you feel that you did go to tennis and pick up the racket and become as strong as you were as a tennis player because of Carla? Or do
I
you
think
think that was
so.
in Yeah.
I definitely think so,
Mhm,
because she really got me started in tennis,
mhm,
and we played a lot together, and it was something that I felt connected me. I also knew that our coach, Donna Cooper, had coached her too, so
mm,
there was that connection, and Carla, I remember when she was playing for Donna, spoke really highly of her, and,
mm.
yeah, yeah, I felt that was definitely there for sure.
Yeah. And Cindy, when was it that you realized that you needed help? Like that you needed therapy to get through this next stage?
Yeah, it was after we moved to Michigan, actually, and we've been here almost 26 years. So I left, we'd had we had 2 kids that were born in Utah, and my oldest son was born in Kansas. We moved around quite a bit, but we'd kinda set up shop for a while. We'd been in Utah for 6 years, and I had a really good support system there and
Mm,
friends, and, I was working, and I enjoyed professionally what I was doing, and, we had the opportunity to move here, and, I thought, "Okay, I can do this again." I'd been uprooted a few times, and I got here, and I just, like, the wheels fell off. I lost all my support system. I was in a place I knew no one. I didn't have a regular babysitter for the kids. So I took a year off because wouldn't wanted to wait till they were all in school before I went back to work. I don't know. I really fell into some serious clinical depression, and I didn't realize how depressed I was until you're there. And it was to the point where it's like, I just have to do something. I'm not sure what that is,
mm,
but I've gotta talk to someone. And I was, blaming it more on the move and following my spouse around the country and, all of that. And I remember the first couple of sessions I went, and she's like, "Well, tell me about your family of origin." I said, "Oh, yeah, well, I have a sister that died and blah, blah, blah." She goes, "Well, what about your sister?" And I said, "Oh, that's in the past. That's all in the past."
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And excuse me. And
Mm,
she goes, "Well, no, it isn't. You wear your family of origin like a skin." She goes, "We're gonna need to talk about that, but maybe not, when you're ready to talk about." So it just took a lot of like easygoing prodding, kind of take it easy, because I had a lot of PTSD stuff that was going on. I would dissociate, I would hallucinate, I wasn't sleeping, and so, we just took it really slow and just consistently. Sometimes 3 times a week I would meet with her, sometimes twice a week, just depending, and
mhm,
I still go every week just because it
good.
helps me keep my focus, and I think a lot of the therapy is the reason why I'm doing the foundation work and talking so openly about it now, because it's important for other people to hear that, because there's so many people that just hold on to stuff and they
Yeah.
don't know what to do with it.
Exactly. And what we resist persists, right? I mean, it's like,
Mhm.
and you know that as a physical therapist, we can have the scars go over and over and over, but then it just gets more and more buried. And
It
then the
does.
original wound is never
Mhm.
dealt with. So,
Exactly.
so when you started to talk about Carla in therapy, did you initially get worse before you got better?
Mhm. I
Yeah,
did, actually.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
did.
That's really common. Yeah,
I had some really rough patches, I will say, but, I've got
yeah.
and I just kept thinking, my spouse was a rock, and he's been beside me the whole time, and
Mm,
he's been awesome. And then, I think what also helped me, I had 3 kids. I'm like, I gotta get my
yeah,
act together here. I wanna be
yeah.
around for these kids. And, I
Mm,
was to the point where I really felt like not living anymore. I mean, it was so bad. The depression
mm,
is so bad. And I fought off, you know, trying different combinations of medication, and finally, over the years, I have, and you still have to kind of check in and make
mhm,
adjustments. But I'm on a really good combination of psychotropic medications that it really have really helped me. And then one of the things I've also
good.
learned about, and this too, is severe childhood trauma like that, it disrupts all the neural pathways in your
That's right.
development.
That's
So
exactly right.
when
Yes.
you have a stress
Yeah,
response, you go right back there, and
that's right.
you can't really undo that, so to speak. Excuse me. You can learn how to navigate with it.
Manage it. You learn to
Yeah,
manage and navigate. Yes, that's
yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah. Cindy, thank you so much for bringing that up because I want the viewers to hear that. That's really important. First of all, when you start unpacking your trauma, there are times it gets worse before it gets better, but
Oh, yeah.
that's part of the healing, right? The 2 steps forward, 1
Mhm,
step back. And any childhood trauma and it doesn't even matter what it
mhm,
is gonna disrupt certain developmental stages or neural
mhm,
pathways like you
mhm,
mentioned. And so even if you're a highly successful human being,
mhm,
like CEOs of company and lab research foundations, whatever it is,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
If you have even a minor fender bender that happens, you can feel like you're unraveling and going back to the original trauma.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And that
yeah,
doesn't mean that all the work you've done to that point was unsuccessful. It just means that, "Oh, okay, that pathway's been opened up again. I need to go brush up my
mhm,
therapy."
yeah,
Right? Yeah,
yeah,
because we all tend with something. And I'm just curious for you, like, existentially, spiritually,
mhm,
when you were so young, like, at any age, if we have our loved one taken by another human being,
mhm.
we're gonna question humanity, we're
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
question
yeah,
darkness, goodness. You were at an age even before fully having your own philosophical
mhm,
foundation, right?
mhm.
So, I'm curious for you, how did that form for you? Like, your belief in good over evil or the belief of evil or philosophy of human beings?
That is a good question, and I think a lot of it was I always felt like I had the presence of my sister Carla kind of watching over me, um, and there would be times when, growing up, in the house, after my folks' divorce, and it was just my mom and I, that I swear I saw her in the corner of the room wearing her turquoise robe that she'd made for herself on numerous different occasions, and it'd be kind of one of those, okay, was that real? Did I really see that? Was I dreaming that? Was I hallucinating? You don't know. And the other thing is, I think her love of nature
Mm,
just I we did so much in nature together. Watch sunsets, horseback riding, go to the lake, go swimming, hiking, camping, fishing. We did and I just felt like being in nature was also a way to connect with her. And so that's kind of how it evolved. And I think my spiritual life is still evolving. And I think it will continue
mhm,
to evolve as I get older, and
mhm,
I do believe that the world is big enough to hold everybody's belief,
mhm,
that everybody is free to worship and do what they feel is important to them because we're all in this together. That's the world, the universe is big enough to hold all of that. And I still hold, fast to that. Um, and I hope that that's what I can leave my own kids is that.
That is so beautiful. And as a trauma therapist, what you just said something too that really stood out to me. Even though you didn't use this word, it seems like from a very young age, you immediately establish safety. And the safety in relationship with Carla, like, you
Mhm.
immediately felt like, "Okay, I could still communicate with Carla," and then you had nature, which also stabilized you and gave you safety. Because often with as we know with PTSD, it's that we don't feel safe. We don't feel
Oh,
safe in
yeah.
the
Oh,
world.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and, when I went to therapy, that ripped the PTSD wide open, wide open. And so there was I probably went a year and a half where I maybe slept 3 hours, 4 hours a night, maybe. I
Cindy.
just yeah, and, the hallucinations, the nightmares, the whole package, and then I finally my therapist said, did you think it's time to maybe try some medication? It's a lot more sophisticated. And I'm like, I don't know. And so finally I did and kind of went through that path. But even then, the stuff that they originally put me on didn't work. I mean, this is supposed
Yeah,
to make
it's
me feel better. I
oh,
feel
it's so disheartening.
worse.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
and and so I'm like, "This is awful." And so then I switched doctors, went to someone else, a different psychiatrist, and then got me kind of more on a more was a lot more flexible in thinking, and we just worked better together, and so then we found a good combination. And then even a couple years ago, I had to switch it up again because things work for a while and then they don't, and I think with any therapy, I've always been pragmatic that it's not a one size fits all. It's
Um,
really individual to what that individual needs and what works for them, and I'm sure you know that because you do a lot of different types of therapies, and I think it's great that people that see you have that that you have that to offer them because
mhm.
sometimes people can be and as a therapist, you just kind of get really tunnel vision on one theory, and this is what always
Yeah.
works instead of, well maybe that might, but for you, we might go this different way. And to be able to offer that, I think that's amazing that you can offer all that variety of things.
Oh, it's so vitally important in my belief, as you know. I mean, as a
Mhm,
trauma therapist, we're all different, and I have to be able to meet my clients where they're at, and that
mhm,
includes what approach they need in that given moment.
mhm.
And maybe using your own example of your own journey, like what you needed when you were in your 20s would have been dramatically different than what you needed in your 40s.
Oh,
So
for
if you went to a
sure.
therapist in your 20s and the therapist wanted you to talk about your sister, you probably weren't ready yet.
I wasn't. I mean, I looking back, I knew that at times I definitely had some clinical depression going on, but I was
Mhm.
always able to, like, out exercise it or I took up long distance cycling and I did some other things and I wouldn't probably been as open to talk about it because I didn't it wasn't important. I mean, my exposure to therapy, my mom took me to the town psychiatrist. He sat across the desk and asked me, "Have you ever thought about committing suicide?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Are you sure?" And I go, "Nope." He looks at my mom, "Lep, she's good."
Oh my god.
That was it. I
Oh
swear to
my
you,
god.
that was it. So I thought, "Okay, I guess
Wow.
I'm not gonna commit suicide, so I don't need any counseling." So that's kinda where your head goes, right? I guess I'm okay, I don't know, but I wasn't. I mean, I needed something 'cause I just yeah, um
So that speaks to survival versus, like, optimal living, right? And
yeah,
if you're raised in a culture or a family system where it's just about survival, you don't have that template that I get to live optimally, right?
right.
And that's often what therapy is like, yeah, we can continue to survive, but, like,
Mhm.
don't you wanna live with complete ease in your life?
Oh, I gotta tell you, it's really sweet. It's not that I don't still have my rough times. I mean, that's the
Mhm.
way humanity is. There's always gonna be
Sure.
times that are difficult, but I do have the confidence now to know that I can get through it with a little bit of help, and that's really satisfying. It is. It's it's hard work. It is.
Yes.
You really wanna you have to put in the hours of time, the effort, show up for your appointments talk about those difficult things, and yeah, I mean, it's there are I just if anyone listening is like, I've always told my kids there's always a thread out there somewhere when times are difficult. Look for it, hang on to it. It's gonna pull you through in one way or another. Um, Even though you don't think you're gonna fit through that eye of the needle, you will. Might get roughed up a little bit, but there's always hope. And that's the other thing that I really want young people to hear is there is always hope. No matter how
Exactly.
hard you think it is, there's always hope. And I hope that I emulate that and
You
can,
do.
give that message to people because there's hope. There's hope. There really is.
Cindy, this is in our last couple of minutes, actually, talking about hope. If you could just share with the viewers and readers again, or listeners, about In Her Name Foundation and also your podcast. Like what?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, because your
Sure.
podcast is about hope. So let's
It
hear
is.
it. Yeah.
So In Her Name Foundation, we started it was in 2020, so we're going on 6 years, and it was set up to help support young women in sports because sports does so many things for the young body and mind. Tennis
Mm,
saved me. It really did. And I want to offer that to kids because it can be all kinds of things. Dance, martial arts, swimming, archery. It can be a school sanction, non-school sanction. It's just be in something because it teaches you so many things about yourself that you may not know that you could do. And I think kids need to be challenged in things that takes them a little outside their comfort zone.
yes.
So we started that because especially with girls, because my sister was a huge uh equity, believed in gender equity way back in the 70s,
Mm,
and so
nice.
that was important, and it saved me. So from that, we started the podcast in 2021, and this January, we will drop our 31st episode, and I've interviewed 31 amazing people that have a story, because we all have a story, and Karen, I interviewed you, and you said, "I don't know if I have a story or not," but you do, you did,
Right,
it's a
right.
really good podcast.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
and so we started the podcast, and it just continues to grow. I keep talking to some amazing people that have their story, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember this," and they're willing to talk about it. And the more we can put it out there, it's more to be hopeful. It's like
Yeah.
these people have done this, they've gone through this, they understand, and it's just to put that vision of hope out there, like, that's my sister, wanting to imbue hope on people because there is hope out there. And the fun thing is we're even expanding more, and I think I talked to you very briefly, so I am also a beekeeper, and we're expanding our production this year because we've started an LLC, and, all of the proceeds will go back into the foundation of the podcast.
Oh,
So,
that's cool. That's
yeah,
really neat.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I
That
have already several women that wanna invest in it. I have a bee partner that I work with, so it's all gonna get better, so.
Oh, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Okay, so in our last little minute here, is there anything that you and I, or all of us can do to honor Carla?
Go outside and watch the sunrise and the sunset.
Mm.
When I was back in May of 2024, I had been involved in the first Carla Legacy Scholarship inside the building, and it was a little bit of a disaster, but, okay. And it was so foreign to me to be in a school that I hadn't been in so many years, people I didn't know, and the whole setup was just kind of different. And I just thought, "What am I doing here? What am I doing here?" And so I'm leaning against the rental car, looking to the west, and I'm looking at the sunset, and it's like, "Oh, okay, this is what I'm doing here," because you know what? That Kansas sunset was the
Mm.
same sunset that Carla was looking at the last time before she died, and I was looking at it again that evening. So, go outside, find the sunrise, find that sunset, and know that the sun's always gonna come up, it's always gonna set, and if you go outside and connect with nature, something beautiful will happen, and that's really how Carla would wanna be remembered, in that way.
That's beautiful, Cindy. Thank you. I will most definitely do that. It'll be sunsetting here in a couple hours, and I will make sure I honor Carla in that way. And Cindy, thank you so much again for being part of Trauma, Psychedelics, and Buddhism.
Thank you for listening to Trauma, Psychedelics, and Buddhism with Karen Sprinkle. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. To learn more or to grab your copy of The Thriving Self, visit KarenSprinkle.com. Karen and this podcast do not endorse or encourage the illegal use of psychedelics.